When Brunel invented the internal combustion engine and revolutionized a world that didn't have them, we can presume that a significant investment would have been needed to source crude oil and then refine it into petrochemical fuel, like gasoline or diesel, i.e., Aruba fuel. In story, a body of multinational corporations called the Aruba Consortium invest in and profit from oil extraction, refinement, and distribution, which gives them massive profits thanks to the demand for Brunel-type engines in transportation and electricity production, not to mention likely including industrial use. In story, the Aruba Consortium is first mentioned in passing for its successful endeavor to source a new source of crude oil, and nearly risked bankruptcy for it. This becomes relevant for the story in two instances. First, when Nadira recognizes one of the board members speaking to Wrath and his pirates in the Heliodrome before they make their hasty departure, and second, when they catch up to the Sagarmatha, seek out the Prometheus engine, and destroy it, prompting the search for the blueprints. The board member who accompanies the pirates, Barton, makes the trip to recover knowledge of Brunel's invention to purposefully keep it from ever being developed. Indeed, when Brunel writes in his journal of taking flight to avoid interference from B, it likely refers to Barton. Matt and Kate overhear Barton explaining to Wrath, and by extension the reader, that such an invention would render Aruba fuel and internal combustion completely obsolete, so the prototype must be destroyed and the blueprint confiscated to protect the lucrative industry as it stands. Notwithstanding how much chaos would actually occur were such an invention to get out, if we take Barton at his word that wealth and fortunes would disappear instantly and economic downturn would be inevitable, we can deduce that while the consortium is explicitly monopolistic in its control and profit from that world's oil industry, it is also vulnerable in that same regard. If one tries to imagine the introduction of Brunel's new engine and a new demand popping up that it should supplant Aruba fuel for energy, one would also have to imagine that transitioning to the new technology takes time. Time that can be spent consolidating ownership of the manufacturing, distribution, integration, and maintenance of the new technology into the energy and industrial systems of society. Which is to say, demand for Aruba fuel wouldn't disappear overnight, because there'd be time for the shareholders of the consortium to diversify their portfolios, as it were. But if the consortium were a great monopoly in their oil industry and somehow couldn't diversify their wealth into all the systems that support the new technology, then we can conclude that what makes Brunel's Prometheus engine work must be widely available and accessible to the general public and other mechanically inclined professionals. At least in Barton's mind, there'd be no controlling the spread, utilization, and competition for using and developing the technology, so the consortium would indeed lose their profits, and even their industry. Perhaps to take Barton at his word is giving him too much credit, and whether he is unique or typical of a consortium board member, it's possible that his actions instigating the story, driving Brunel to fly and then die in the sky, and then setting pirates on Matt and company for their Hyperion sighting, and then following them onto the airship to destroy Brunel's work, are more driven by his own ignorance of economics and politics. Because from my perspective, it should be far easier, even trivially easy, to just buy the blueprints and the intellectual property they represent at a price that would satisfy someone like Hal Slater or Nadira or Matt Cruz upon successful salvage, and then just keep it under lock and key, and sue anyone for trying to develop the same, into not developing it, or giving a significant cut of the revenue for its use, in the way patent law and licensing works. The only way this could be a bad plan is if protection of intellectual property were not at all proficient or recognized over national borders, and despite the supposed international influence of the consortium itself. You'd have to imagine that when crossing certain national borders, intellectual property is no longer protected, and anyone can make anything that anyone else has come up with, without paying the intellectual property owner. Suffice to say, as far as the consortium should have been concerned, Matt and Company couldn't have profited from the blueprints beyond selling them to someone who can profit from building and distributing the technology. All they were looking for was gold, and they don't have factories and mass forces of labor in their back pocket. So if the consortium has a monopoly on oil fit to influence geopolitics, but has no confidence in intellectual property protection by law, and doesn't even consider buying off the motley crew of salvagers that find the blueprints, what does that say about the security of their industry? Maybe it's pirates, and not simply the swashbuckling kind. The pirates we saw in Cruz's last adventure, I had figured were based on imperial dispossession, having gotten away from imperial control for the sake of living off the grid, as it were, plundering what valuables they could to trade for what they needed, clandestinely. If there are many groups of people that are purposefully underserved by imperial governments, like Nadira's family and Roma group, then piracy would be a pervasive problem, and the means to end it wouldn't occur to those in government and industry that prefer privilege of their hierarchy over the social equity needed to undercut the incentives to turn pirate. What this would also allow is a fair amount of industrial espionage and piracy, not just material like hijacking shipments of supplies, resources, and product for sale, but also intellectual. Why take a risk developing something yourself when you can give a comparatively paltry sum to a band of undesirables to go and steal it for you? And those undesirables would very well include people well practiced in the dirty common work of airmanship, brawling, gunplay, and even intimidation, fit to terrorize victims into compliance. When Wrath set his pirates on Matt to try and coerce the Hyperion sighting coordinates out of him, it's right afterward that Wrath proclaims his colleagues and he serve the interests of the finest people in London and Paris. In this way, they wouldn't be simple pirates, but also mercenaries or private contractors, to make it sound better. There could be many such private contractors throughout Kenneth Opel's airborne world, making it difficult to advance technology and industry with the increase in knowledge, not just serving the corporate underdogs, but especially serving the affluent to keep small competitors down. How this relates to the quest for Hyperion and Grunell's engine is that despite the consortium's monopoly on oil extraction, production, and distribution, Grunell's engine may have used technology and materials that couldn't be monopolized by the consortium, maybe more akin to steam engine technology, that would bypass the oil industry altogether. If there was a tradition of using force via private contractors to acquire and control intellectual property, a la airborne piracy, then it would make sense that board member Barton would resort to such violence to prevent the technological change and save his industry's future. Unlike Matt and Company, whose only goal was getting the gold, in a way, Barton and the consortium's goal is also all about the gold. That is, keeping their gold. In a roundabout way, this story is driven by gold, or more precisely, the perceived need for gold. The story is instigated in the world's fictional past, where a great man disappears, presumably with his hoard of gold, but only because his partners in lucrative business wanted his new invention in order to keep their gold. Matt's story is instigated with the sighting of that airship, Hyperion, and the promise of its presumed gold acts like a fantastic lure for anyone desperate enough to try and get at it, as Tritus is and does, nearly dooming Matt. When knowledge of Hyperion's last known sighting draws the attention of pirates, and by extension their benefactor, Barton of the Consortium, the gold promised by Hyperion's recovery is again a danger to Matt, who would have been used and then maybe disposed of by those pirates, except for the intervention of Nadira. Nadira herself holds a literal key to the Hyperion's famed vaults, and seeks Matt so that they can together reach Hyperion, take the gold, and make new lives for themselves. This is especially poignant for Nadira as she left her home and family behind to make a new life for herself, in spite of her status as an other in polite society. The fantastic nature of the flying gold hoard and the sheer odds against reaching it make Matt reject any notion of seeking it out until he is confronted with the specter of a rival for Kate's affections in Hal Slater. For Matt, he remembers thinking how enrolling in the Airship Academy to become a fully fledged airship officer and doing it with Kate's companionship would have been enough, and in so many ways a dream come true. But the prospect of losing Kate to someone richer, more mature, and seemingly of more means leads Matt to conclude that the only way he can viably improve his life is with that flying hoard. Only then does he endeavor to reach Hyperion and strike gold. After evading pirates, reaching and then searching Hyperion, the literal gold everyone, except Kate, was hoping for seems to continuously elude them. Matt also discovers how Hal is himself singularly focused only on the gold, to the detriment of everything else of value. We only learn towards story's end that Hal, as well presented as he seemed, is in danger of losing his airship to repossession by debt to bank finance. So when searching for Hyperion, the value of everything present in Grinnell's final home is lost on him. And there is so much value on Hyperion, notwithstanding what's driving the story itself. The evidence of how Hyperion lost her crew and was stranded at 20,000 feet would be invaluable to that world's equivalent Air Accident Investigation Authority, and subsequently to later regulation of airship operations and aircrew training in the same way real-life black boxes give insight into air accidents and help us improve the safety of flying. Any records of human involvement in the accident would be of great value to law enforcement, and especially if the death of a great man Grinnell was due in part to a corporate executive of a certain consortium we know. And in the same way that Kate sought Grinnell's taxidermy collection for the value it would bring to zoological scientific studies, so too would Grinnell's other inventions, if for nothing more than the value of their instruction as to what technology and engineering was possible in his time, and what they could make possible for future development. So the group doesn't immediately strike gold. What the group does find, however, is the true purpose and value of the Hyperion, her passenger Grinnell, and why she took flight. Not to haul a hoard of gold to a new home, but to become a new home where Grinnell could make his dream and vision for humanity's future possible, using his invention, the Prometheus engine, to help people make a home among the clouds. While everyone pursued Hyperion for Grinnell's gold, Grinnell's most precious cargo was not his gold, but his inventions meant to realize a dream of human life in flight, something that Matt Cruz can appreciate and yearn for more than anyone. When Barton and Rath's pirate band catches up to Hyperion, it's about the same time that Matt convinces both Hal and Nadira of the truly valuable thing they've stumbled upon. Not the gold they've sought, but the blueprints to Grinnell's engine, and a potentially glorious future for humanity. When the pirates attack and board Hyperion, the only thing that convinces the group not to hide and wait for rescue is to seek out the blueprints, which is also Barton's quarry. All this time, Matt had fantasized about finding the gold and using it to make life for himself and his family easier, to allow him to keep flying, possibly with his own airship and crew, as he always wanted, but also to help keep Kate in his life. Yet even here, the way Matt views himself coveting gold is conflicting with his sense of his own character. After being belittled as an academy brat by a subpar Captain Tritus, nearly being thrown out of a restaurant for want of money to spend, and being targeted by pirates, the last straw is seeing Kate meeting with Hal Slater and thinking that without money, he can't be taken seriously in polite society and will always be looked down on as a boy. While jealously coveting everything Hal seems to have, airship possession and swagger, and thinking that gold will be the key to becoming a man of means, again seemingly like Hal, Matt is instead plagued with a contorted, twisted vision of himself, someone trying to be not a mere boy, but not quite a man, as Matt imagines. While Hal is eager to plunder gold and indulge in the finery of wealth, Matt is trying to follow along and partake in it, at least in his attitude, with the goal of keeping Kate's attention over Slater. But the circumstances of the simple hunt for gold frustrates that endeavor. The real value of the Hyperion was never in finding that rare yellow metal, and when confronting the pirates, that becomes all the more clear when Kate is taken prisoner. In that moment, for Matt, nothing else matters. No amount of gold, finery, or luxury, no airship, crew, or the freedom of it would matter to Matt. Kate was in danger, so Matt would go save her, willingly risking his life to save hers. As Matt makes his way to the final confrontation with the pirates, it is only then, in the secret passage of the Hyperion, does he finally find the gold they sought after. Like a final temptation, it holds Matt's attention, but for a moment. Nothing else matters. The gold will offer nothing to make up for Kate's loss, so Matt leaves it all behind. Matt returns to the Hyperion's engineerium, releases the captive Arizoans, and in the scuffle that follows, all pirates but Wrath are killed, including Barton, and Wrath is sent fleeing back to his airship to scuttle the Hyperion. Saving Kate leaves Matt only one goal now, to get himself, Kate, Nadira, and Hal off the Hyperion before she's sunk. Their only way off without the Sargamatha is to take Grunell's ornithopters from the aft launch bay. Through solid ice, temperamental mechanics, jammed hangar bay doors, and Hyperion being blown apart by explosive traps triggered by Wrath, only Matt's actions and Kate's ornithopter flight skills save the group. Matt himself is nearly left behind to sink with Hyperion, except for the use of a fantastic feathered wingsuit, with which Matt glides out of the hangar, and just before losing his feathers, is found by Kate, and in turn all are rescued by Sagarmatha. After finally reaching safety, the group can take stock, and in a way, so can we, the reader. Hyperion, the gold, and the blueprints to Grunell's Prometheus engine are lost. Hal glumly faces the loss of Saga through bank repossession, while Nadira faces a new start of life, but from scratch, handicapped by society's prejudice for gypsies. Kate may have gotten part of what she wanted in the first place, specimens of Grunell's taxidermy collection. In the end, it's farthest from her mind, and she and Matt ponder their future together. It is here that Matt directly voices the question that has been bothering him for the entire adventure. Would he be a better person and achieve a better life with Kate if he had wealth? Kate suggests that it doesn't really matter, as she sees the worth in Matt, regardless of his wealth, as a kindred spirit with whom to revel in wonders to be discovered. But I believe the answer can also be seen clearly to us as we follow the story. We're shown Matt's thoughts of how possessing wealth would presumably keep him in Kate's affection, the one thing he truly values before all others. However, in Nadira and Hal, we see in effect shadows of Matt and Kate's relationship, and how neither of them, if emulated by Matt and Kate, could ever give them such a bond. Nadira is a shadow of Matt in that she's fit and primed for daredevil adventure, just like both Matt and Kate. But just like Matt, comes from humble origin, and seeks a better life through her escapades. Alas, Nadira's singular desire for wealth leaves out the wonder and appreciation Matt finds for discovering Grunell's and Hyperion's true treasures. One such that Kate finds in the discovery of airborne creatures that inspired Grunell's genius towards his ultimate goal. Hal Slater is also a shadow of Matt, in that he is everything Matt himself feels he wants to be, refined and established, and in total control of his life and prospects. And like Kate, is driven to and capable of achieving what he sets his mind to, with professional skill and experience that Matt can appreciate. Nonetheless, Hal's seeming numerous gifts of skills, experience, and leadership are wasted searching for something far less valuable than what both Matt and Kate recognize as the true value of the airship Hyperion, the invention Grinnell made to revolutionize human life. If Matt had at any point abandoned the basis of his bond with Kate, the discovery, understanding, and appreciation for the wondrous and the new, Matt would be left more hollow and wanting. For with Nadira, he may have felt less insecure, but at the cost of discovering the possibilities of the new wondrous world that's opening up to him on the adventure. If Matt had taken Hal's outlook, he'd forever be gripped with avarice, jealousy, and suspicion for wanting what so many well-to-do figures seem to have, and not himself. These hollow pursuits manifest in a malformed specter in his dreams, and later in his conscious insecurity, a man unfinished and frozen in uncertainty of what they are to become. But when Kate is in mortal danger, where his heart and soul lie is made perfectly clear. When Matt goes to rescue Kate, while facing Barton and Wrath, it is Kate that also saves him. When Hyperion is being destroyed, it is only with Kate that the group is able to survive by using the onboard ornithopters to fly. When Matt jumps clear of Hyperion with his own wings, only Kate can save him from the same fate as the tragic figure Icarus. Upon finally earning their safety, Matt can again look upon himself as whole. Time and again, whether through choice or circumstance, Matt and Kate courageously come to each other's side, and whether facing the lure of gold, the wrath of sky gods, and the fallibility of pitiable men, theirs is a bond truly worthy of a city in the sky.